Fanhome, after finding success in Germany and the UK, is finally coming to the United States. A fairly novel concept, it's a subscription service where you build really cool models using parts that you receive over time, as well as getting goodies that take you behind the scenes of some of your favorite icons from video games, comics, and movies. Today we've got a real treat for you, the start of an ongoing series where we're going to build the Iron Man Mark III suit. I'm Ron Burke, Editor-in-Chief for GamingTrend.com. Let's open these things up and get started. So the way this works is that you're going to subscribe to a particular product. This first shipment you'll get 2 boxes, and in this case we're assembling the Iron Man Mark III armor. Each month you'll get a new package with 4 more parts, as well as a comic book, some behind the scenes on the armor itself, and even a look at the Iron Man suit in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Without further ado, let's assemble. Alright, first things first, let's open this up. This is a note from Fanhome talking about their other products. If you've not seen it on our site, you might want to check out the R2-D2 build-up that we're also doing, but they also have the iconic car from Fast and Furious. Allegedly it's still about family, though it seems lately to be about spaceships and stuff. Naruto and Street Fighter, as well as Iron Man, of course. No doubt with hooking up with those kind of big name properties, we'll probably see some more goodies from Fanhome in the future. And it looks like this is a personal note from the Fanhome team. Dear modeler, welcome to Fanhome. We're glad you joined us and are sure you will love this completely addictive journey into build-up modeling. In every package you'll receive parts of the model and magazines with easy to follow assembly guides. This magazine also includes amazing articles, interesting facts, and plenty of hints and tips about everything, of course officially licensed. As they say, sharing is caring, and we would love to hear about your journey. Use the hashtag Fanhome when publishing images to social media so we can see how your very own Iron Man Mark III armor model is coming along. Enjoy the journey, Fanhome team. Very cool. So this first item in the box, beyond the little bit of literature from Fanhome, is this Iron Man kind of once-over on the product itself when it's all put together. So this is the Mark III model. If you follow comic books, or I guess if you've actually seen the movies, the Mark III armor obviously is the third armor that Tony built, the first one being the one in the cave, the second one that he did his first flight with, and when that scared him half to death, he made the Mark III armor, which had a lot of the characteristics that would allow him to fly safely. So that's what it's going to look like when it's all done. It's going to be 24 inches tall, have 56 points of articulation, as well as light up repulsors and the lights and chest piece. Should be pretty cool when we're done. So every month, you're obviously going to get parts, but you're also going to get these bonus items. These bonus items are goodies that you get just for being a subscriber. So the first one you're going to get is these Iron Man posters. There's 3 of them. The second gift you'll get is this Iron Man hat. The third one is the Arc Reactor t-shirt. The fourth, an Iron Man power pack. It's a charger, 2600 milliamp. The fifth is an Iron Man backpack. And sixth is finally the light up base for the Iron Man suit when it's all said and done. We already kind of covered this, but obviously each one of these will come with a bit of comic book lore, as well as some behind the scenes and step-by-step assembly instructions. If we unfold this, we see it's actually a massive Iron Man poster. This is not the Iron Man poster from the movie, that's actually the product when it's all said and done. So that's going to be pretty awesome when we're done. Let's get this folded up, move on to the next book. So this first book starts where most fans probably started, and that's with the movie. So Iron Man 3 arguably kicked off the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This goes over kind of how the new hero is born, if you will, the Mark I armor, the Mark II armor, the Mark III armor, Ironmonger, and then we get to the assembly instructions. It's pretty cool that they started us off with the mask. That piece of armor is probably the most iconic piece, the helmet, and we're going to put it together and even light it up. Then the last part is the comics. Back in the 80s was when that fight between Iron Man and the Ironmonger occurred, Obadiah Stane, and you get to see that with a little bit of comic book lore here, some behind the scenes on how that scene went in the comics rather than the movies. Again, we see the Mark I armor, that all gray armor that he built in the cave. Obviously this looks a little less clunky than it did in the movie, but a lot of the same cinematography. I mean, this is kind of an iconic picture that we saw right in the movie. Robert Downey Jr. did an amazing job bringing that to life. And then it looks like we're gonna start with the feet. So we're gonna start with his left foot. We're gonna put that all together, and we're even gonna get that to light up as well with the repulsor on the bottom. The comic book in this particular section goes over a little bit more of Tony, both the older Tony Stark as well as his role in the Avengers and Civil War, and kind of bringing us up to even to modern day where we have Peter Parker's identity being revealed. Now let's take a look at the parts. The parts come in these blister packs that we're going to open up. It's the same kind of card back like you'd see with an action figure. And then obviously we're going to be lighting up these repulsors. Looks like they use little watch batteries. It's nice that they did not go with a proprietary battery. These are easy to change. So let's open these up and get a closer look. It just wouldn't be an unboxing if I didn't do that. So the parts are officially out of the box now. These are not plastic. They're actually solid metal, which is great. This is going to hold up really well. I think it's going to be awesome when it's all put together. Again, metal. Now I'm kind of particular about my screwdrivers. I do a lot of work inside computers, taking things apart. So I have my own set, but the R2-D2 one came with this basic one here. But it looks like the Iron Man one, they went all out. So it's themed the same color, has a little rotating back on the side here. I mean, that's pretty close to what I'm using. So we're gonna use the one that came with it. All right, so we've got all of our parts unloaded and we've turned to the assembly guide. One of the things I want to point out is that Fanhome identifies all of their parts, even the screws. So these are AP screws, BP, EM, EP. All of these parts, I mean, these are fairly recognizable, right? But when you get into some of the other parts, it might not be so easy to identify. But each one of those has a part number stamped on usually the underside, so you can't see it when it's being displayed, but it allows you to very quickly identify what part you're looking at for assembly. So without further ado, looks like we're going to start stage one with the LED assembly. So we're going to grab this helmet, and it says we're going to need, let's see, 1H, which is the support post right here. And we're going to be attaching those with EM screws. So these are identified as EM screws. It says position the support post 1H inside the body of the helmet and fix in place with 2 EM screws. Another thing I'll point out is that these are all metal parts. Sure, there's going to be parts that are plastic, but these are all metal. This will hold up really nicely and it's going to look great on display. So let's see, the post looks like it's going to go right there inside the helmet, just like so. Next up, we'll grab the LED assembly, get that unraveled here. So this is going to be the switch right there, little contact, and then these 2 eyepieces. It says the LED assembly 1G comprises the battery case, 2 LEDs for the visor and part of the switch. Place the assembly 1G with the hole in the battery case facing outwards and fix in place with an EM screw. So hopefully you can see that clearly. Right down here is where it's talking about in this recessed part. Stage 2, fitting the LEDs. Fit the visor base 1D into the main body of the helmet. 1C at the front. As shown, it has 2 tabs that will fit in place with gentle pressure. Battery case can be seen at the top of the helmet. It's important that the battery cover 1F fits in place properly, so test fit part 1F before continuing with the assembly. So that would be this piece right here. Can really go in only one way, it won't fit that way. So this should just snap right into place. There's 2 little tabs, just like that. You shouldn't have to force it. Piece of cake. This tiny little battery cover here, and it should just go on top, which it does. All right, step 2, place the LEDs 1G in the holes of the LED support 1E as shown above. They fit from behind with a little gentle pressure. All right, so quick consultation. 1E is this little guy right here. It'll go inside these little squares on either side, and it looks like it doesn't really matter. They'll only go in one way. So we're gonna unravel these just a little bit and push those in from the front. It says little gentle pressure, those just slide right in. There we go, done. Step 3, fix the LED support 1E inside the helmet with 2 EM screws as shown. The LEDs should point towards the visor base. The visor base, as you might recall, is this plastic white part here. So there are two screws, not scrolls, those are different, 2 screw holes right here to mount it to, so it'll point towards the base. So this should be as simple, oh, I see. This little piece right here, this little notch, goes into this, I'm gonna take this out so you can see. There's a small notch right there that it's gonna slide into to hold everything in place. Put that back on. That notch slides in place. And we're gonna drop those 2 screws in there. All right, those are secured. Let's change the page and see what's next. Stage 3, helmet base and switch. Place the helmet support 1N, so that's this, onto the base plate 1M, that's this, and fix it with 3 AP screws. The support will be connected to the helmet to the neck and should be secured firmly. All right, so these are labeled AP, so these are the screws that we want. We'll go ahead and open that little bag. That is the last of the AP screws that we're gonna need, so that bag is empty. So these fit over those holes, and then we drop in these screws to lock it in place. Step 2, place the assembly 1M and 1N onto the helmet base, part 1L. Fix the parts together with 2 EM screws. Well, I do believe that's this. We're going to attach it. Yep, there's 2 little spots right there. We're going to lock it in just like so. There we go, fits nice and snug. And it said 2 EM screws. Step 3, fit the switch part 1L into the right earpiece 1K. 1L fits into the groove in 1K and the post must be at the top of the switch. Fix it carefully with a BP screw. All right, so it can't be that one because that doesn't have a post to attach anything, so it must be this one. And then the switch is this little guy right here. So it looks like the little tab faces up. There's a square notch out of this, so you can't mess this up. Gotta say, that's one thing that Fanhome has really thought through. All of this stuff is keyed in such a way so you can't possibly go astray. Step 4, insert assemble parts 1K and 1L into the slot in 1L, as shown with the post on 1L towards the base plate 1M. Thank God there's pictures. What it's all saying is this little notch here has to go into the little notch down there, so it just drops in place. So that way when you rock this back and forth, it'll actuate the switch for the LEDs in the faceplate when we assemble it later. Step 5, fix the part of the switch from the LED assembly onto the base plate 1M with a BP screw as shown. When the earpiece is turned, it connects to the switch and turns on the LEDs. Well, I just said that. So this is a little bit of a fiddly bit. You've got to get inside there and drop that screw in that spot while holding both of these objects. Easier said than done. Stage 4, fitting the mask. Bring together the 2 parts assembled in stage 2 and 3. That would be this and this. The support post 1H fits into the hole in the base of 1M. Check that the parts are properly aligned, then fix them together with 3 EM screws as shown. So they should slide together nice and neat like that, and then drop 3 screws inside there, and you're all set. Step 2, put a battery sideways in the socket, noting the orientation plus and minus. To make insertion easier, use a pair of tweezers to move the spring aside. Fix the battery cover 1F in place with an EP screw. All right, that's the battery in there. Now, time for the battery cover. Looks like this part faces out. Step 3, put the left earpiece 1J in place, which fastens with a magnet. Probably the easiest part we're going to do all day. Fix the visor 1B into the mask 1A with an EM screw, then fix mask part B10 with an EM screw, push the mask onto the helmet, it's held in place with a magnet. So, looks like we'll be screwing this onto the visor itself. Again, this really can only go one way, which I just did it upside down. It can only go one way, like that. And then we're going to use one of these EM screws to lock it in place. Rolling back a step, looks like I missed one part. It was that part 4 there where it said to adhere this to the bottom of this. So we're going to do that right quick. And then we will be complete. We'll test it one more time because it's so darn cool. Love it. All right, Iron Man's head is all done here, so we'll turn off the light. And we're gonna set him aside. Next up, we've got Iron Man's left foot. So let's unpack that and take a closer look. Okay, everything's unpacked. Looks like we're gonna be taking this first part of the boot, which is this part here, and we're going to be attaching it to this front part. Step 1, place the red toe joints 2H in the round holes on the side of the foot assembly. Hold them in place as you slide the toe cap 2F over them. Do this on a flat surface until the toe cap clicks into place. Alright, so this ankle joint, this large circle part, will go towards the inside, which looks like this part of the knee. So we're going to drop this inside. There's a little hole for it to drop into, and it should face to the outside like so. Next, we're going to attach the ankle joint cover, which is going to lock this in place. Again, these are all labeled screws, so we're going to grab one of those EM screws and drop it right in place, right inside the boot. Next up, we're going to put the LEDs into the boot. There's a little compartment here, and as usual, you can only really mount it one way. There's a small screw hole there that'll go to this little mount hole there. But more importantly, we've got to put in this little button that'll allow you to actuate the boot repulsor from the outside. There is no screw to attach this, so it's important that you do this first. Simply push this into this spot, and hopefully we'll stay there. Just like that. Alright, so while holding this, some gymnastics here, we're going to push the small battery box into place, which will in turn, with that little tiny tab there, hold the button in place. We're going to lock it down with an AM screw. As long as I can keep the screws off the magnet. Next, we're going to attach the heel LED. That's going to go right here. That's the repulsor for the bottom of the heel. So 2D is this little guy here, this little plastic dealie here. Just drops right into that spot. That way you've got a piece of something white to bounce the light from. And we're going to lock that in place with this little cup, just like so. And it's going to go cup up like that. Time to put that repulsor light into the hole that we just created here. This tiny little one right there. And there's the LED from the previous thing. Just pushes right in there, and that's that. Now we're going to push the heel with the LED in place onto the foot, press the two pieces together firmly, and fix the 2 AM screws as shown. This large post here will match up with this post here, and then there's another small post inside that'll line up with this hole. So we're going to make sure that the breadboard does not end up getting smushed. Get the wiring out of the way so it all fits in there nicely. Nothing gets pinched, and then they just simply lock together. And we're going to mount them with AM screws. Now we're going to assemble the toe cap. So place the red toe joints into the round holes on the side of the foot assembly. So that's going to be right here. That's going to be these little guys. Sit like that. Hold them in place as you slide the toe cap over them. Do this on a flat surface until the toe cap clicks into place. All right, this is going to be a challenge. You've got to hold both of those and then slide this. Yep, they jumped out just like I thought they would. This part's going to be a challenge. Not an insurmountable one though. I think they're in place. Now we're going to lock those in with some CM screws. When you're done, this should freely move, but also stay attached to the foot. Just like so. Fix the two covers. So that's these little silver guys here. Those are going to go right over the part you just put in a screw. There's two little holes there. You'll be able to drop these right in there and they'll click right in place. Just like so. Next up, we're going to finish assembling the toe cap. This is the bottom of the front of his boot. That's going to drop right into place, covering those electronics and keeping them safe. And it should also limit the articulation to prevent him from bending too far. So we'll lock those in place with two CM screws, and that should be it for this step. All right, it's locked in place and moves freely. Next is the battery cover and the upper plate. Just like before, there's a nice little battery cover to keep your batteries safe. And there's only one way you can put them in. So we're going to slip the battery in and cover it up. To put the battery in, take your screwdriver, pull this spring back. Doesn't have to be a lot. The positive side goes towards the outside of the boot and should slip in place, just like so. And that's that. Next, we're going to lock down that battery cover to keep it safe. And last but not least, we're going to put the cover over the top, but I prefer to test things first. This little button right here is how you'll turn on the repulsor. We're going to press that, and just like that, one lit up repulsor working as intended. We'll turn that off to save some juice. This adheres with a small magnet, which will lock right onto that little place right there, just like so. Left foot complete. All right, it's time for box 2. Let's get that open, see what's in here. As before, we've got some magazines that will serve as the instructions as well, and 2 more assembly packets in boxes, and some that are in plastic bags. Looks like everything. Let's get rolling. As before, we have all of the books that will serve as instructions, so let's go through each of these. First, number 3, we've got some of the first armors that Tony had ever built, and some of the earliest drawings of Iron Man. If you look at it compared to comics these days, man, we've come a long way just in color theory alone. Looks like we're going to be assembling the right hand in these instructions. So this looks like it takes place after Civil War. We have Tony as the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Some of the new Avengers in here. And then back to the Model 1 Mark III. Some of, again, the earliest Iron Man comics from the Tales of Suspense. Next, we go into this one that's entitled The Illuminati Conspiracy. We're reaching back into some of the strange days of Tony Stark. This would be when Tony goes to the moon. Obviously, we get a new Rogues Gallery. And looks like in this one, we're going to be building the arc reactor. That's exciting. Again, back to the Illuminati. Here we have some hints as to what Phase 4 might look like. Here's some of the characters that we've seen announced, as well as Black Panther, obviously, being part of that. But these are some of the Inhumans, which we've got that movie coming in November of 2021, provided nothing else weird happens with this stupid pandemic. And the red and gold Iron Man, another one that's definitely a classic and highly recognizable. The next book, Book 5, is entitled Iron Man vs. Tony Stark. So we're starting to get into some of the internal struggles of Tony Stark with himself. His struggles with the Mandarin, his struggles with his father, and some of the psychological issues that came with it. We're going to be building the right elbow joint. And that's where we're heading towards. Again, very exciting. Looks like this will be a small build part though. And then some backstory on Steve Rogers and Tony Stark and their troubled relationship as Avengers and as friends. The final book for this build is entitled Iron Man vs. the Hulk. So undoubtedly we'll be getting into the Hulkbuster armor and the reason behind needing it. But first it looks like we're going to talk a little bit about the alien threats that Tony has faced, including the Skrull. For assembly, we're going to be building the Mark III armor elbow joint. Looks like the second one, so it's the other half of what we built last time. And they're giving us a nice view of where that's going to go when it's assembled later on. Iron Man versus the Hulk, as I suspected. This is some of the reason why Tony and Tony and the Hulk, Mr. Bruce Banner, tangled so much, and the start of the Hulkbuster and needing to prevent atrocities before they happen, which obviously leads to a whole lot of mess we've seen in the movies. And then finally the Model 4 classic armor. If you're listening, folks at Fanhome, maybe after this one we can get some of that Hulkbuster armor. That'd be amazing. As we build Tony's right hand, there's a whole lot of tiny parts. Let's unbox this thing. So when this is all said and done, this thing's going to have 56 points of articulation, and holy smokes, look at all these fingers. After very close inspection, and I mean very close, I think I've determined that this is the thumb, that's the index finger, middle finger, ring finger, and pinky. So we're going to start assembling Tony Stark's hand. Begin the thumb by screwing pieces 3C and 3D together with a C-piece screw. To help you identify the pieces, notice that each piece of the thumb marked in the joint, 1R for the thumb, 2R for the index finger, 3R for the middle finger, 4R for the ring finger, and SR for the little finger. The tops of the fingers are flat, so use this to orient the pieces. I find that orienting these particular holes can be a lot easier if you hold it up to a light so you can see through. It'll save you a lot of trouble trying to align some of these smaller screws into the screw holes. When you're done, these should be easy to manipulate and should lock into place wherever you place them. To make this easier on myself, I went ahead and sorted these. These are the 2R pieces. There's 3 of them. They're all marked as you saw. 3R, 4R, and 5R. So we're going to assemble the index finger, which is the 2R pieces. First thing we're going to do is attach this knuckle joint right here. And again, we're going to use those CP screws, and I'm going to hold this to the light so I can see through them, which I can already. And then this one goes through. Again, flat side, flat side, flat side. All right, those pieces are put together, and we now have an articulating index finger. I'm going to fast forward a bit and assemble all the rest. All right, all of Tony's fingers are built. So now we're going to fit the LED into the hand portion, which you can see right here. The first thing that we're going to do is take this white piece, just like the reflector piece in the boot that we built. We're going to drop this in place and secure it on these 4 bolts. All right, we're going to move this out of the way and grab the back of the hand. And we're going to be attaching the LEDs to the back of the hand to create the repulsor light. This next LED part, we're going to take the switch here, we're going to drop it into this little hole so it sits flush like this, because that is where drop this in to mount it. It should come out of this hole, just like so. This next part's some real draw the rest of the owl nonsense. So what they want you to do is coil up this wire and eventually get this breadboard to sit kind of here-ish so it doesn't squish the rest of the components, and so you can get the rest of the pieces inside the hand. So I'm gonna magic this real quick. We'll be right back. When you're done, it should look something like this. Next up, we're gonna be positioning the fingers to mount onto the hand. So they suggest that you kind of stage them, if you will, to make sure that you've got the right fingers in the right spaces. All right, I realized that the breadboard was sitting here and there's a chance that it could rub against this knuckle when it moved, so I went ahead and repositioned it over here on the side. We're gonna go ahead and bring these two pieces together. Hopefully they all snap together without a problem. Looks clean. Sometimes when you're in a hurry, you can make a simple mistake. When I got to the end here, when all we had to do was put on this final plate, I realized I had an extra part. Well, there are no extra parts. They are nice enough to give you extra screws, but no extra parts. This joint has to go inside here, otherwise he has no way to connect to the rest of his body. So we're gonna loosen these screws just a little bit and get that in place. With all the fingers laid out, the wrist lock piece here and the breadboard moved, we should be able to join the bottom part of the hand with the repulsor over the top of these fingers very carefully and close this thing up. Fingers crossed, no pun intended. Pun's totally intended. Like that. Should be able to now lock this down with some screws and call this portion done. All the fingers are articulated, heavily articulated at that. You can adjust just what position they're in by adjusting the screw that's inside of each finger. So this one's too loose here on the pinky. All we have to do is go in, give it a little bit of a tighten, and now it'll stay where it's meant to stay. The last thing we need to test, of course, is the repulsor. So let's do that. Pressing this little button right here turns it on. The last piece is probably the easiest. Flipping it over. You've got the magnetized piece on top of the battery case that connects to the metal plate right there. That drops right on top. And the hand is now complete. Moving on to issue 4, we're going to go ahead and open this up and start the assembly of the arc reactor. So we'll pull out the parts for that, get these out of the blister pack, and we'll be right back. With only a handful of parts for the arc reactor, this should be a fairly quick build. So stage 1 is to take the crown and reactor cover, it's these two pieces, and put them together. The front of the arc reactor consists of 2 parts, the crown for A, which is this part, and the inner plastic ring for G. Fix the inner ring to the back of the crown as shown, snapping it in place using 2 small pins. So there's 2 little pins right here, right there and right there, and there's 2 little holes right on the ring to allow these to just simply snap together. That was easy. Now insert the reactor cover for F, that's this, into the back of the crown assembly and fix with 2 AM screws. This piece will only fit in one orientation of the 2 raised posts and screw holes. Done. Next up is the battery case and screen. So again, you've got an LED here and a small breadboard. The reactor housing 4B comprises the battery case, a switch on the base, and an LED that fixes into the support 4E, which is this. Carefully remove the LED cable from the inside of the battery case. Push the LED support 4E into the housing 4B, being careful not to trap the wire between the support and the housing. There is an additional step here. This little piece wants to come loose and move out of position. We want that to be dead center, so I'm going to kind of tug on this to keep that tight in place. And then we're going to push the rest carefully inside. Being careful not to bend the wires too much. Just like so. And our switch is still in position. Push the transparent screen 4D on top of the LED. You will fix the parts together in the next step. So that just holds there on top. You gotta do a little bit of finger gymnastics to hold all this stuff in place. The housing assembly from stage 2 fits onto the crown assembly from stage 1. Align the screw holes to get the parts in the correct position. Then on a flat surface, fix the housing in place with 2 AM screws. Battery time once again, the last one in our pack. Cover on top, which leaves the button exposed. And we're going to lock that down with the last, with the BP screw. Arc reactor complete. So we're moving on to episode 5, but you'll notice that these parts look very similar. We're obviously going to be assembling a portion of the elbow from the looks of it, but which one's which? Well, up in the corner you'll see we're on episode 5. This part number ends in 06. This part number ends in 05. So we're going to take this 06 one, put it aside for now. We'll open up 06, and I'll be right back. With the book open, you can see that we're going to put together the right elbow joint. I have only 4 pieces here. 5 pieces if you count both of these. So the right elbow joint, we're going to flip this over, like so. These 2 washers go right over the posts. The right arm joint, that's the upper one, 5A, gets flipped over and goes on this portion right here. The lower right arm joint gets flipped over, placed right here. And that's the end of this particular package. To get this closed up so anything doesn't get lost, we need to open up episode 6. All right, episode 6 is open and we've got everything unpacked. We've got the right arm joint cover, 2 more washers, a right arm elbow connector, and some screws. Taking the right elbow from the last episode, we're going to begin to assemble and close this up. So the first step is to take the elbow connector, 6B, and drop it right up here into the top portion of that assembly. Squeezes right into place. We take the arm cover, apply 2 more washers, like so, and simply fit the 2 together. Got to be careful when you put these 2 together that you don't lose the washers. That's going to be a challenge. Hardly an insurmountable one though. All right, pieced together. We're going to make sure everything mates up like it should. Everything can still move. And now we're going to bring the 2 pieces together with the last 2 screws, these 2 GP screws. All right, everything's all fitted up. We still have movement. That is 1 elbow joint complete. That's 5 amazingly detailed pieces of the Mark III armor complete and assembled. Join us next time as we unbox another 4 pieces of this iconic set. Big thanks to Fanhome for supplying us this amazing statue and the opportunity to build it. I'm Ron Burke, Editor-in-Chief for GamingTrend.com. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you again very soon.